What about this research coming out and these longevity experts that are talking about when you're having all this animal protein and you're having this elevated mTOR response, right? And then that is essentially, going to cause, murder on our cells. And I mean, like David Sinclair talks about that in his book Lifespan, where he says like meat is murder on our cells. So like, what is your response? I mean, mTOR, we need that to add muscle tissue, and muscle tissue can be preserving to our joints and bones and all sorts of stuff. But then now we're not supposed to have enough. I mean, how do you kind of work through that?
Okay, so here's the deal with that. People promoting that idea, Sinclair, there's others. What is I call them the longevity nutters.
Uh-huh.
It's a whole camp of people who are just restrict your protein. Longo is the god.
I was about to say, Robert Longo, right?
Oh boy, it's some exotic first name, and then the last name is Longo.
Yeah.
But he's worshipped in that area. And here's the thing: the data on yeast, so single-celled organisms, data on worms, flies, and even rodents shows some benefit to protein restriction. Because we can look at the lifespans of these animals and go, okay, well, that affected that, and so therefore this. Well, here's the issue. Once you get to non-human primates, the data is equivocal. So some of it shows protein restriction extends life, some of it doesn't. And now we go all the way to humans, and we start looking at what are the aspects of aging that are most critical to our degeneration as a species during our short little time on Earth. And one of the most important signs of degeneration in humans with respect to the aging process is loss of lean body mass, loss of bone mass. Sarcopenia would be kind of the clinical term for the wasting of lean body mass. And with the onset of sarcopenia starting in older age, you really have to question the whole idea that we need to restrict protein. There is no compelling data that in humans protein restriction will do us any good. So, and conversely, there's no data in humans that eating a crap load of protein is going to just accelerate our descent into this horrible death.
Right.
So with the longevity question, as it applies to protein, I would rather look at it like this. How can we optimize the growth and the maintenance of lean body mass as long as possible? And that would be a major contributor to extending our lifespan and our health span. So my father died recently, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's tough, but it toughened me up, and I still believe that he's upstairs making sure I'm behaving. Yeah. So he died of complications of lean body mass loss. So one of the things that happens when you get sarcopenia is you become immobile. And so once you can't get up from a chair, and this was the result of an aortic aneurysm surgery he had that he just had a tough time recovering from. So it wasn't like he volitionally stopped training and eating and caring.
Right.
So what happened was he became immobile, unable to get up from a chair by himself, unable to walk around. And when that happens, bro, everything is downhill from there.
Right.
Just everything, just structurally, metabolically, your immune system, everything goes down. And so if we can look at aging from the standpoint of maximizing musculoskeletal functional capacity, that's not going to happen from restricting protein.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about we need to freaking slam, a whole cow with each meal.
Right.
But the weight of the evidence, as it stands today, shows that among the general population, protein intake somewhere between 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilo is appropriate for preventing sarcopenia. And there's another phenomenon associated with that called sarcopenic obesity, where you kind of get a combination of fat gain with lean mass loss, and that's a bad thing too from a metabolic syndrome standpoint. But there's different ways to look at this. If you are a lifter, if you train, if you even lift, bro.
Do you lift, bro?
If you even lift, bro, then you are definitely not going to be restricting protein. You're going to be using protein as a weapon in the arsenal for longevity.
Right. Because, I mean, then you start having the sarcopenia and you fall down and you break a hip and you're 80 years old and then going under a knife is going to be a big problem for you as well. I mean, then you have that hip replacement and all that sort of shit. So
those mechanisms like mTOR and IGF-1 and all that they're zeroing in on that might impede the longevity capacity.
Yeah.
That is missing the forest for the trees.
Okay.
Because we need to be freaking training, we need to be lifting, and we need to be active for as long as possible. But when we stop being able to do that, nothing matters anymore.
Right. I mean, is there something that people, because let's say that this research is valid. I mean, maybe could you have a little higher protein consumption days when you're actually lifting and lower protein consumption days, maybe a little bit more towards that 1.2 or maybe even 1, you drop that down on days when you're not lifting? Is there any research or validity behind that, or just kind of grasping at straws now?
You know, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. And it depends on the person's goal. You know, if somebody is gunning to actually gain lean body mass, or if they're in a compromised position to put on lean body mass, like for example, if they're in the throes of sarcopenia, older individuals already have a certain degree of in quotes anabolic resistance. So if you lowball protein in that population, they're not going to be able to utilize protein as efficiently as younger folks do. So you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you kind of lowball that population.
Okay.
So, but you know, if somebody is at a certain level where they have a favorable amount of lean body mass, muscle tissue, and function, and everything like that, and they're not necessarily trying to gun for the gains,
right?
Then, you know, the lower training days or lower training periods, I can see 1.2 not being an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Gun for the gains, and do you even lift, bro?
Yes.
I like that.
We got to bring that back. It's all like 10 years ago stuff.
Oh, and we'll bring it back.
People are forgetting about it.